I want to make a video about the new Joker movie that's coming out that everybody seems to be fawning over. The funny thing is that the critics either love the movie or they hate it. Um, it's averaging about a 75% if you go by um, the critics on IMDb and Rotten Tomato. And the thing is, the ones who love it, they give it a 5 out of a 5. The ones who hate it, they compare it to a rehash of Taxi Driver or The King of Comedy. So it centers, of course, on one individual. So Joaquin Phoenix gets to be the star of the show, and you throw in Robert De Niro, and you got a couple other actors that we've seen, but not in huge roles. This movie, if I'm reading what the critics are letting on and what so-called fans have said they've seen, which I find it hard to believe on IMDb that over 16,000 people have seen this movie. And of course, it's a 9.5, 9.4 over there. Everybody gives it 10. Here's the reason why I don't believe those people over there is because the a lot of the reviews are generic and they're almost basically the same thing. Greatest ever, greatest movie ever, greatest Joker ever, surpasses Heath Ledger. They don't give you any little hints or details. Some people do, but most of the reviews are pretty generic. That's why I don't believe them. Um, Now, if you go by the critics, who I will believe because there's probably two or three hundred critics that have seen the movie, um, all over Venice, Toronto, here in the States, have seen the movie, and it's basically about a guy who has mental health issues and has been in an institution, lives with his mother, down on his luck, takes all kinds of meds. But before this movie even you started getting reviews, you kind of knew what the movie was basically going to be. Some of it was going to be about. And you kind of knew a couple of things that were going to probably trigger him to be a psychopathic killer. And I hit him both on the head because a couple of people that critics have seen the movie said he's set off by him not being able to get his medication anymore. They're going to close the clinic down. So I knew either the psychiatrist or the facility he was going to was going to cause him to be kind of trigger him off, kind of put him on that edge. Then his hero, which is Robert De Niro, does a late night show, a comedian, makes fun of him. So these combination of things, and then of course he gets beat up in the street by some punks. Um, it just kind of sets him off. What it really sounds like to me is a movie about a guy who is down on his luck. And we know, trust me, we have met people like that in real life. And or we've heard about them because they end up doing mass shootings. Um, they've been treated poorly at work. They the system has crapped on them. Everything, you name it, it's happened to them. And they just snap. If you didn't have the grease paint on them and the screwed up outfit, which, by the way, looks nothing like any version of the Joker I've ever seen. Purple's his color. This looks like a mauve pink. He looks, in his makeup, he kind of looks like he's auditioning to play Ronald McDonald. And it's kind of, it just, it's like a loose interpretation of the Joker. And another thing somebody pointed out today, is this really happening, or is this we're living through his fantasy. This is all going through his mind. You really don't know. Now, he has nobody against in this movie. So, of course, a good actor, he's going to grab the spotlight. Now, let's go to Nolan's version with Heath Ledger. Ledger had to go up against 4 Academy Award winning actors: Morgan Freeman, Christian Bale, Michael Caine, and who else? Oh, shoot. Gary Oldman. So he was surrounded by people who were really good actors, and they needed a certain part of screen time. So Ledger had to share the stage with a bunch of people, and he just kind of blew them all out of the water. I remember Christian Bale saying he was almost a little jealous because Batman was supposed to be the star of the show, and the Joker upended him. It's the only movie where I think people didn't like what the Joker was doing. You know, of course, he was a murderer, but they really didn't care if he won or not. You know, it didn't bother him. If they kind of fought to a tie, they would have been happy with that, because he put on such a brilliant performance. And there was so much going on in The Dark Knight. So much. I mean, it was action from start to beginning. Now, let's go in contrast with this movie. This guy now has no meds. He's really down about as far as he can go down on his luck. Living with his mother. He has no medication, and then all of a sudden, he becomes a criminal mastermind. I find that kind of hard to believe. Now, let's look at Ledger's. He never showed any signs of being crazy. In fact, from the very moment of the film, when he had the stooges that came with him to rob the bank, and he had them turning against each other, he was in complete control of that entire movie from start to finish. He had his own people turn against themselves. He had the mob turn against themselves. He didn't get half the mob's money. He got all of it. He had Gordon screwed up. He had Harvey Dent screwed up. And he had Batman screwed up. He had everybody chasing their asses. Now, does that sound like a guy that's taken a handful of medication and is a nutcase? No, it's pretty much like a guy that's in control of the entire situation. And at the end of the movie, when he does snag him, because, you know, of course, Batman can't let anybody die, even though people have died, and he's hanging upside down. Do you think the Joker really cared that he was caught? No. Because as far as he's concerned, he won. He got Batman to do things that he's not used to doing, and also he turned Gotham's White Knight into a criminal. So as far as he's concerned, he won. And on top of it, while he's hanging upside down, talking to Batman, telling him pretty much, I beat your ass. He's in his head, the wheels are turning. Wherever they put me, I'm going to get out. He was far from crazy. Now, Arthur in the Joker is a nutcase who needs a medication to keep him even-keeled and thinking right. And then on top of it, you know what really pissed me off when I was reading some of the, a lady had done, on Rotten Tomato had done a review. And she basically kind of said Thomas Wayne was almost like a scumbag. Like he had no empathy for anybody. In all the times I've you know, seen movies or heard about Thomas Wayne's Laurel in the comic books, he was a good and kind man, and he fought for the city of Gotham. That's where Bruce inherited that from. The city of Gotham meant a lot to him, and the people there did. But in this movie, it seems like Thomas Wayne is kind of a hard ass and really doesn't care too much about people. I'll know when I go to see the movie. I said I wouldn't go see it, but I'm going to have to go see it because I guarantee it's going to be everything I say it is. It's basically like I said, take the grease paint off, and you have a psychopath that's going around killing people. We've seen this act before. When Ledger came out, and they didn't dump him in a vat of acid, and they took a different take on him becoming the Joker, it was fresh, it was original, it was action from start to finish. I will say this, and I don't care who tries to convince me. The Dark Knight is the greatest comic book movie, period. There's nothing even close to it. And Heath Ledger's performance is legendary. The Dark Knight is the only comic book movie that's in the top 100 movies of all time. I'm not talking about in the last 20 years. I'm talking since Talking Films came out. It's the only comic book movie. Marvel can't say that. And I've enjoyed a lot of Marvel movies, so don't think I'm a Marvel hater. More of a DC guy, but the thing about this is can we give Batman, the Joker, a rest for a few years like we did when Clooney, not by his choosing, while they brought out that clusterfuck of a movie, and it just ruined Batman. It needed about a 6 or 7 year break so they could do a reset on it. When Nolan was through, they should have just let Batman okay, we've seen about as good as it can get. Let it just rest. Same way with Spider-Man. I could give a shit if I ever seen another Spider-Man movie in my life. As far as I'm concerned, the only two good Spider-Mans were the first two. The rest of them were garbage. Spider-Man Homecoming is the only movie that I ever fell asleep in. And it was at the part where the ferry scene was, where the boat was splitting apart. My nephew nudged me. He says, "Hey, man, are you asleep?" I guess so. I have no desires to see that. I have no desires to see Far Away. We've had like 7 or 8 Spider-Man movies. I don't care if I ever see one again. And he's been in other movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I just don't care if I ever see him again. Or at least not for a long time. It's like, enough's enough. So, my theory of this movie is it's probably going to score around a 75 to an 80, maybe a little bit higher. The DC fans are so desperate for a hit that's where I think a lot of these fake reviews are coming in. They want to say, "Hey, we trumped you at least one time, Marvel, since The Dark Knight has been gone." About the only movie they can say that they held their own ground and did as well as they did was Wonder Woman. But other than that, they have nothing to hang their hat on except for the Dark Knight trilogy. So they're so desperate, they'll tell you this movie was great even if they didn't like it. You did the same thing when The Dark Knight came out. IMDb, you guys people were voting on the movie before it ever came out, and it shot past The Godfather temporarily, and then when things got straightened out, it dropped down to where it should be. It's a top 5, top 10 movie of all times, in my opinion. My opinion, it's my favorite movie. Um, I've never seen The Godfather, so yeah, you can crack on me. My brothers always do. But, to me, it's the best movie I've seen in my generation. I just don't think this movie's going to do that for me. I've been disappointed lately at the movies that I've went and seen. I'm looking forward to a few movies, though. This is not one of them. I'm looking forward to Ford versus Ferrari. I want to see the last Star Wars movie, good or bad. We won't know until we see it. George Lucas got involved, so we hope that it's better than the last one. And the last Daniel Craig James Bond movie. And my last comic book movie that I'm going to see for a while will be the next Wonder Woman movie. Then comic book movies and me are going to take a break. It's time to get into another genre and just give it a rest. You know, because as far as I'm concerned, I don't need to see another Batman. And here we are going to have our second Batman since Bale retired and hung up the cow. I just don't need to see that. I don't need to see Glitter Boy as Batman. Come on. I mean, like I said, I just, this crap with this Joker movie being the greatest movie ever, and this coming from critics too. And you got to see this movie. It's just the best. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix he's as good as Ledger, surpassed him. That's for the fans. That's their opinion. I know you're fans of movies too. The critics are, but that's your opinion. There's going to be millions of people that see this movie. They will give you their opinion. And holding at a 9.4 at almost 17,000 votes, I doubt very seriously 17,000 people have seen this movie. So my thought of is that it's BS. May I be surprised and it might be a decent movie? Yeah, there's always that chance. I've gone into movies thinking they were going to be bad and they ended up being halfway decent. And then I've gone in there thinking movies were going to be great and they were shit. We all know, we've all gone through that. So my theory of this movie is it's just going to be the typical poor guy who was pushed over the edge, fell through the cracks. He decides, I'm going to just go out, start killing people. But I'm going to do it with a little flair. I'm going to put some makeup on and a goofy looking outfit, and I'm going to dance down some steps, and I'm going to be different than the normal killer, who just goes into a crowd, unfortunately, and shoots up a bunch of innocent people for no reason, So that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a rehash of Taxi Driver and King of Comedy. That's what it's going to be. So, but to those who go see it, I hope you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, don't lie and say you did, just so you can boost that score up. Give an honest opinion of the movie. If you think it's a 10, say it's a 10. If you think it's a 6, say it's a 6. That's the only thing that I'm asking. If I go there and I think it's a 7 or an 8, I'm going to tell you it is. If I think it's a 3, I'm going to tell you it's a 3. I've never got up and walked out of a movie. I doubt I will with this, but there could be a first time for everything. And I'm not a huge fan of Joaquin Phoenix. There's only 2 movies that I really cared for him in. That was Ladder 49 and Gladiator. And the only part I liked in Gladiator was when Russell Crowe took that blade and crammed it through his throat and shut his ass up. Hit like if you like. Hit thumbs up, subscribe. I know a lot of people, but I'm just telling my honest opinion. There's only one Joker. That's Heath Ledger. Sorry. I know Marvel people are saying you only got one, place to hang your hat at. Well, it's one hell of a place to hang it at. Peace.